Welcome. I'm Dave Henning, the Fresh Start Podcast, fresh ideas for business and personal growth. And my guest today is none other than my good friend, Rich Whitley, real estate broker, Coldwell Banker, Seacoast Advantage in beautiful Wilmington, North Carolina. Welcome, Rich.
Yes, greetings from the edge of the earth in North Carolina.
Awesome. So we go back a long way. We've had, as we spoke earlier, we've had a lot of interesting challenges, changes, and things that have happened in our lives. Both of us. Somebody told me that typically people like ourselves might have as many as 7 different careers. So tell me what's going on, and yeah. Did I get that about?
Hold on.
Yeah, you have done some really amazing things in the corporate world and really North America, as well as what you're doing now in the real estate world. So talk to us.
Well, it has been an interesting ride. As you say, when first came out of college, it was I'm going to go join the corporate world. That's what you were supposed to do. So at the time, now, of course, a little bit off the edge. I, as a way of background, grew up in New Jersey. So, the New York tri-state area. Went to school in Florida because I'm smart and wanted to go where it was nice. But then, graduated, and my parents fully expected, oh, well, you're going to come back, and my dad was, well, we'll set you up and get some interviews over in the banks or something like that. And then I dropped the fun bomb on them at one point and said, gee, talk to my uncle out in California, and he said, come on out. And so I did. They were shocked, to say the least. But, it's like, okay, uncle's there. He's going to take care of him. And, that's where the adventure began. Tried the corporate world, figured I'd go into sales. It's one way you can enter anything. And initially I got a job, believe it or not, with the American Express Company in the credit card division and had a sales territory, worked at that. I wasn't that comfortable in the corporate world, changed jobs, thought, it's always the company, it's not me. Went to work then for Ortho Pharmaceutical and thought, well, we'll get out of the credit card business. We're going to go into pharmaceuticals. So paid well. But I learned, in about a year that really wasn't it for me either. But I did have a passion and a love because in my college days, I was on the college radio station, something that you might identify with, Dave. And I had an opportunity to go to what was then the KISS Broadcasting Workshop in Los Angeles and learned all about real radio, not this college stuff. This was the real thing. But it was interesting, and I got to meet some remarkable people. Some actually who told me things in that workshop I remember and follow today about marketing and advertising. Yeah. Get into that in a little bit. But through a connection there, I got a job in a radio station up on the eastern side of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Little town. I mean, radio, you got to go start in a little town. Nobody starts in Los Angeles going, hi, send me $1 million and we'll do not. You have to hone your craft.
Yeah.
So I did in a little town with a I always laugh because they say, well, how big was it? Oh, we were 100,000 watts. And the interesting part was it was a 50-watt transmitter, 50, but it was in a building on a 10,000-foot mountain.
Whoa.
Now, in the flatlands, your towers, the big ones, are 2,000 feet high.
Right.
We were atop a 10,000-foot mountain. Didn't take a whole lot of power to reach out to a huge area, but it was all mountains. There was almost nobody there.
Yeah.
But it was okay. I heard, honed my craft. After a couple of years there, I went out, got my new first class license. That then got me down to Yuma, Arizona. I come out of the beautiful mountain areas into the desert. And I mean desert. Once again, I spent a long time there. I was there for 5 years, which for smaller markets, kind of unusual. But began, my life. I was married, so we had our first 2 children there. And it was like, well, I really don't want to move. We got little kids, everything else, but all good things come to an end. And I felt it was time to get out of radio, that I needed more. So I wasn't ready to totally get out because I knew the business. Looked around and I got a job in sales. And that moved us to Raleigh, North Carolina.
Wow.
And it was actually a great town. And this is back in the early to mid 80s. And I was working in AM radio when FM was exploding all over the place. And I was in the old news talk AM radio, but I got very successful at it. And one of the reasons was because I knew how to sell, but I also knew how to write and produce the ads.
Yep.
So I could put something together, take it out to a client, and they go, wow, that sounds great. Okay, how much do you want to buy?
Exactly.
Did great. Eventually, all the rules in radio changed. FCC decided, well, in the old days, you could own 7 AM, 7 FM, and 7 TV stations. That was the limit. Well, they decided to change and say, no, that's kind of restrictive. Anybody can own anything. So huge corporations were just buying things up left and right. And then it was back to the corporate rule. Not so much for me. So I got into and had an opportunity through a friend of mine to get into the direct mail business. Still advertising. And with that, I was able to get the franchise for Valpak Direct Marketing. Was the largest franchisor in that industry. And I got into Charlotte, North Carolina, which was, a huge growing market. From there, started literally with zero. I bought a dormant territory, and over the next few years, built it to mailing 280,000 homes every month. And that, is where we met.
I was there. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was a great time. And as you know, not only did I work for you in selling Valpak, but I ended up starting another business of my own, and I was buying Valpak from you as well. Maybe, I don't remember how many zones I took up near the Lake Norman area, maybe 50,000 homes, maybe, I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but that was so cool because it worked.
But it was great. You hit a point where you needed to change and grow, and you did. And I remember saying even at the time, you got the chance to go do something. Go do it. It wasn't like, well, you leave here, you're terrible and hard. No, it was like, Dave, you got a chance. I've taken them. you should have them too. So it was great. And we've always remained friends. There was never like, that
Yeah.
guy left, it just didn't exist.
Well, you saved my life because we actually met at a Chamber of Commerce event, and I was doing another industry that I would decided, well, kind of like yourself, that's got to go away, and we connected and hit it off. And I have to bring up, because back then you could have gotten support from Valpak, Largo, Florida, if I had taken this test to see. I called it the psycho test because because,
Yeah, it's not
because
if you're crazy, it's how crazy are you?
yeah. Well, one of the big questions was, how old were you when you started to play chess? So I don't know. That was just one of the questions that came up. I thought, and lo and behold, I flunked the psycho test. Go figure. But you took a chance on me, Rich, and I owe you for that big time as well. So here we are in whatever the heck year 2023 this is, and this has got to be what, 20 years ago, maybe something like that.
I think we're
Here,
closer to 30.
oh
Hate to
my
tell you that,
gosh, oh my
gray hair
goodness,
guy, but
yeah, exactly,
yeah, we've known each other a long time.
yeah.
But,
So
the
yeah,
psycho test was one thing, but in meeting you, one of the things we were always told is hire someone you like, because if you
yeah,
like them, chances are other people are going to like them, and you will
yeah,
buy from people you like.
yeah,
Someone comes in and you're like, yeah, I don't think I really want to be around this person. Pretty good idea. Other people don't want to be around them either. Not probably somebody you want to hire in sales.
right, exactly. Yeah, because I had the same background as you. When I was an on-air personality, then I needed my son had medical bills, and so I got moved into the sales side. So similar to you, I loved it that I could do a demo tape and write the copy and just dazzle people, and then sell them something. It
Yeah,
wasn't that dazzling, but it was fun anyway.
exactly. Exactly. Did that for, gosh, I guess it was about 12 years. And business went through a lot. And I somewhat took my eye off the ball and left things kind of with a sales manager to do things, because I'd gotten very involved nationally in the Franchise Dealers Association.
Ah,
And at that time, we were going through a franchise contract rewrite. Those are things have to be done every so many years just to make sure it meets all the newest legal requirements from securities or the what is it, the Commerce Commission and things like that you have to do. And I got involved in that up to my eyeballs, but got to work with some phenomenal people. I mean, our franchise attorney, a fellow by the name of Steve Terry in Dallas, Texas, was so smart and so good at understanding the language of the contract and our business. So, and I always tell people, you have a great attorney when the people on the other side of the desk say, yeah, that's a complicated section. Would it be okay if Steve wrote that? And then we'll just, whatever he does, we'll take back and run through our attorneys, but we kind of trust him to write it. You know,
wow,
and
wow.
their high-powered Atlanta attorneys are sitting on the other side of the table going, "Oh, okay." You know, but a great tribute to Steve. He was phenomenal, phenomenal guy, and so smart. But in doing that, my dealership suffered financially, but that allowed me then to go on and take over the executive director position for the network to finish out that whole contract thing and create some new things for the whole network. And I mean, one of the biggest things, like any sales meeting type thing, is you get so much from the presenters, but you get 100 times that from being around people like you and just getting to speak with them, at conventions. And I bring dealers together and say, hey, what are you guys doing about this? And one guy would have an idea and everybody else would go, oh, I never tried that. I'm going to go try that now. So it worked. It worked.
Well, you reminded me of the conventions that you gratefully sent me to. I think one I remember specifically was Nashville, before they tore down the big amusement park, and we got to see the Oak Ridge Boys or something. The other one was Washington, D.C., where I think I skipped a few classes, and me and my Valpak buddy from somewhere, we actually toured the White House instead.
Well, I didn't know that back then, but
how much? I'll send you a check in the mail.
Yeah, really. Yeah, it was good, and I always thought it was important that the salespeople, went to events like that.
Amazing, just amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
But then, all good things come to an end. It was the first time I ever got fired for something because they told me I was too nice.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
Yeah, really. It's you're too nice. We want somebody who's going to be a bulldog and be mean. I left. They brought another guy in, the bulldog, and he lasted just about a year, and everything fell apart. And I mean everything.
Yeah.
So that didn't work, but it was time for me to move on. And that's when I got on the digital side of things, started learning. I got hooked up with some people. I then had moved to Wilmington because that was a time when laptop and a cell phone didn't matter where I lived. I was always doing things at meetings in Texas or Chicago or Los Angeles, Las Vegas or Florida. I was traveling a lot. So where I actually lived didn't matter.
Right.
I was very early into the work from home thing. Before that, COVID made that happen for everybody.
Right.
I started doing that in actually it was 2004.
Oh, wow.
So, in about 19 years ago, I was doing the work from home thing.
Yeah, amazing.
So that was good. But I got hooked up with a guy and started learning about mobile. And could very well see, and again, this is early 2000s. About 2008, I started learning things that today people marvel at. One of the guys had a connection with a fella over in London. Was just a genius. And again, we're looking 18 years ago, was then developing augmented reality. And this was a mesh between the mobile phone and your live situation, wherever you were, because the satellites would know, and what was in front of you, and actually gave a demonstration of someone standing in front of a museum. And because of the position of the phone, they knew, okay, you're looking at this building. It did this fast internet search and said, oh, that's such and such a museum. And could show you off the internet then, here's what's on the 5th floor of that building. Here's what's on the 4th floor. Here's what's on the 3rd floor. And all you're doing is standing out, holding your phone with a camera, looking at a building. In 2009. It was, as I say, we weren't on the cutting edge. We were on the bleeding edge of things that were going on, but it really opened my eyes to the power of mobile.
Oh yeah.
And I think if, you probably get into the data of your podcast, your video cast, and the number of people that view on a mobile device, now that's phones or tablets, I would be willing to bet you is 2 to 3 times the number of people that see it on a desktop.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's a computer. It's a computer in your hand, basically. Yeah.
Exactly.
I just bought a new camera the other day. It actually has a phone built into it.
Well, that was one of Steve Jobs' things.
Yeah.
He always said, this is a computer.
Yes.
It just happens to be able to make telephone calls or snap pictures or do all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But you're walking around with a computer in your hand.
Oh yes.
That will do amazing things.
Yeah.
And that's, that starts to tie together so many things that when I look at my broadcast days, that was about how things sounded. And, what pictures you could create and how you used your voice.
Yeah.
Then I go into direct mail. That's visual. What does it look like? How do you place things? How do you emphasize? And I'll tell you a funny story. When I first did it, I was crazy. I could talk with a business. I could hear what their ad had to sound like.
Wow.
I had to figure out, okay, what does that look like on paper? And that took a while to adjust to. It's a whole different, audio versus visual. Well, you go ahead a few years, and now what are we looking at with these? It is audio and visual all meshed together.
Exactly.
What does it sound like? What does it look like? And streams of information, obviously. So it's been fascinating, but there's a point where you say, I think I got to relax a little.
Shocking.
Yes. And technology, honestly, has gone. I really kind of hate to say this. It is a young person's game.
Yeah.
And there are things that I frankly just don't want to get into. Social media, all the rage. They're learning now it is equally antisocial. People have forgotten how to get together and chat.
That's right.
You and I got to be on a phone call day before yesterday, and it was like we saw each other maybe a month ago, and like, what have you been doing the last couple of weeks? Not the last 20 odd years, because we're communicators.
That's right.
And we weren't doing it just, staring at a screen and looking through other things or whatever. We got together and we could connect very quickly as communicators. So I've always been a little fascinated now, with where I live, because I absolutely love it here. I've tried moving away twice. It never worked. I always came home. And I thought, well, I wonder if I can convey that to other people. If you can find the love of this place that I found, you're going to find home. And I thought, what a great thing to do. So I jumped into real estate, and real estate is all about Marketing, how it looks, how you sound, how you put it together, and how you literally communicate with people. So that's kind of the full circle of everything. And I'm not even sure. How did you find me again?
Oh, well, I think your name popped into my head. I searched you on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I kind of am. I'm kind of a research guy, and I like as the hundreds of guests that I've had on my podcast. I like to do my due diligence and vet them, because I told you my vetting story about the guy that I said, no, I don't think we're a good fit to work together. Goodbye. So I do a lot of vetting, but I love research. And I flunked history in high school because I skipped way too many classes, for one thing. Went to the hamburger joints with my buddies. But I found out I had to take summer school to graduate from high school with this hot looking chick. And I aced it, ironically enough. And
Did she give you the answers?
no. Just she was very thorough. She was an excellent teacher. I don't even remember her name. But nevertheless, I found since then I literally love history, and I love researching different things. And it's amazing. You don't know what you don't know. There's an expression about when you know, then you know what you don't know. And I could say something.
You don't know more.
Yeah, I knew everything when I was a teenager. So all that to say, that's a long answer to a short question about. That's kind of how you're in my times right now, in the season that I'm in. People's names come into my mind that I connect with all over the United States, and I just try to find out where they are. I actually connected with my old sales manager, Tom Schulte, out in Kansas City when I was working for KCNW Radio. I had the morning show. Then, as I mentioned, I got off the air, and I'll tell you, that's another whole story another time. But I had this urgency to locate him at Christmas time, and the old overnight disc jockey somehow found me on the internet and contacted me. He lives down in Ecuador right now, and we've stayed friends for 40 years. And I says, I'm trying to find Tom. Where is he? He says, oh, I got his phone number. And so it's like an answer to prayer kind of a thing that I found Tom at a critical time in his life. So that's how I found you.
Well, and it's been great reconnecting, and I'm delighted to be here. And when you think in marketing and advertising, I can actually take this back to that KISS broadcasting workshop.
Yeah.
And one of the things really struck me, I've never forgotten. I can picture the guy who said it. I can't think of his name, but he said, what you say times the number of times you say it is all that matters in advertising. What you say times the number of times you say it is all that matters.
Okay, I'll tell you my Marvin Kosofsky story, because that was the Universal Broadcasting when they could only have 7 radio stations at that time. And Howard Warshaw was in Long Island running the station there. He was the technical guy that bought all the equipment, the computers, and Marvin was the money guy. So when I went into and Marvin was actually in the American Graffiti movie with Harrison Ford and Ron Howard and the Wolfman Jack. He was actually in that movie out in LA. And so since I'm on the sales team, we went, Kansas City, the steakhouses are unbelievable. So I had a trade with every steakhouse so I could have free lunch. But Marvin comes out, he takes us to Steak and Ale or one of those franchises. And to your point, he says, how do you say it? Boys, it's a numbers game. Want to make more sales? See more people. That's a paraphrase of what you were told. But I have to give the quote. The great Dick Clark, American Bandstand, always had this quote. You can tell who's been in radio the longest because he's got the biggest U-Haul. And then he also said, if you haven't been fired at least once in radio, you haven't been in radio.
Oh, how true.
Been there, done that. Anyway, all that to say, it's so I want to encourage everybody. If Rich has got the rich credentials for handling your real estate in the Wilmington coast area of North Carolina. After all these years, all the pieces of the puzzle have come together, and here we are today talking, Rich. And I want to support you in the real estate business. Let me put a number in here. What's a contact number I can put together here for you?
Probably the best number is area code 910-839-8466.
Eight, 4, 6, 6. Let me put a little dash in between these. Make sure I got this right. Whoops. Move that over. Okay, let's see. Is that right? Did I get it right?
The number.
Okay, you want to give Rich a call, and this is a guy with rich credentials going way back. If you need to buy or sell a home, Rich is the guy to talk to in the Wilmington area. So, Rich, I want to thank you so much for being with me today, and we're gonna close things out with my little promo here, but we'll be muted out. But hang on the line for a minute. And we will see you in a second. Thanks so much for being with me. It's been great.
Thanks for having me, Dave. I appreciate it.